Welcome back, everyone. Our next presentation will be making the most of observability dashboards with Perses, and they'll be presented by Augustin Husson and Vanessa Martini. And I'll let them introduce themselves on this next slide. Thanks a lot, and take it away.
Thank you so much. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the session Make the Most of Observability Dashboards with Perses. The goal of this session is to introduce you Perses and explain how OpenShift users will be able to benefit from it from an observability visualization perspective. And now you may wonder, what is Perses all about? But before getting started, a couple of words about us. My name is Vanessa. I am a product manager at Red Hat, working in observability, focusing on OpenShift analytics and UI topics. And today I'm joined by Augustin.
Hello, so I'm Augustin. I'm a principal software engineer at Amadeus. I'm working in the observability team, and I'm also a Prometheus maintainer, so I'm part of the Prometheus team, and I'm the creator of Perses, even if now many people are joining the project, so I'm not alone anymore.
Great, thank you. So, in today's presentation, we will focus on 4 sections. The problem statement, answering the question, what problem do we want to solve with Perses? The actual solution, providing an overview of Perses and its objectives. The functionalities section with a demo of Perses integrated into the OpenShift Web Console. And lastly, we will look into the roadmap, how, and most importantly, when will OpenShift users benefit from this integration? So let's start with section number 1, the problem statement. So in this presentation, you will hear 2 perspectives dealing with the same problem, the complexity of managing observability dashboards. On one side, the vendor, represented by Red Hat, dealing with a multitude of customers of different sizes and industries, and on the other side, the end user, Amadeus, which provides software solutions for the global travel and tourism industry. So let's start with Red Hat's perspective. In the past couple of years, the OpenShift Observability organization has been focusing on promoting the concept of observability as the sum of 5 pillars: data collection, storage, delivery, analytics, and visualization. Those are all equally important to enable OpenShift users to turn their data into answers. Nevertheless, with OpenShift 4.11, a decision was made to remove support for Grafana prepackaged and pre-validated dashboard visualization from the OpenShift monitoring stack. So this was motivated by several factors. First of all, in 2021, Grafana announced a change in license from Apache 2.0 to a slightly more restrictive AGPL v3 license. So given the uncertainties of this relicensing and the fact that our team could provide limited support to customers, Grafana being a third-party tool anyway, we decided to start investing more on the OCP web console and evolve our own observability visualization experience. So the web console is in fact the central observability visualization tool for OpenShift, where full support is provided. In the web console, we target 2 key persona, the cluster admin persona and the developer one. So the cluster admin generally needs to investigate the state of cluster components and user-defined workloads, while the developer persona needs to monitor application or project metrics, exploring memory, CPU usage information, and bandwidth data. Given these 2 personas, 2 perspectives are available in the OpenShift Web Console, the admin perspective and the developer one. Many of you might be already familiar with those. As you can see on the right side of the slide, the developer role needs to select an existing project from the project drop-down list. However, despite the 2 different roles, user needs result to be very similar here. It all comes down to having data exploration opportunities and flexibility. So based on this information, we asked ourselves the following. Without relying on third-party tools, how can we provide cluster admins and developers with the flexibility they need? This includes providing custom dashboards capabilities and freedom to drill down into the data. And that is when Perses and open source came into the picture. But before deep diving into Perses, our solution of choice here, let's take a look at the problem that Amadeus is challenged with observability-wise. So over to you, Augustin.
Thank you. You can go directly to the next slide. Thank you. So on Amadeus, we built a monitoring platform based on Prometheus, Thanos, and Grafana. And the politics was to be able to keep the platform up to date at any time. So every time Thanos, Prometheus, or Grafana is releasing a new release, we want to deploy it immediately. So when you have this kind of politics in mind, that means that if you are managing some dashboard, you need to, well, the dashboard needs to follow the different updates from Prometheus, from Thanos, or from Grafana, because that's the only way to be sure that your dashboard is performing, is still working, it still have the correct data, etc. So it's easy to say that when you have 1, 2, maybe 10, maybe 100 dashboard, but when you are reaching like us 5,000 dashboards, it's becoming difficult because, well, our user doesn't really follow the different release of Grafana or Prometheus, which is normal because there are other things to do, like creating some application in Amadeus. And they usually find out that their dashboard doesn't work during an on-call, which is not a super great time to find that. And also during an on-call, usually you don't have necessarily the correct dashboard to investigate, so you want to build another dashboard dedicated to the incident. And if you are not familiar with the platform, if you are not familiar with the data, it will take time to create such a dashboard. Next slide, please. So how we can mitigate these issues? And for us, the solution was the dashboard as code. So what's the dashboard as code? It's simply the fact that you are coding your dashboard. So your dashboard is directly in your application alongside its configuration or any files that is useful for the application. And we are using JSONet, which is a template language. And it's not super great language, but thanks to that, we were able to mitigate these issues. And in fact, during on-call, we are today creating on-live dashboard that helps to investigate faster the incident. But actually, JSONet is not that great, and we had a lot of pain to do it, to support the dashboard as code in Amadeus, and we were thinking about another solution, like it would be great to code the dashboard in Golang, for example, or in Java, in Python, in language that we know, and they are super powerful. We can provide a lot of libraries outside of just the dashboard. And the solution also for us is Perses. So you can go on the next slide. And now it's time to talk about Perses. So what is Perses? Perses is an open source project founded at Amadeus in 2021. After a couple of times, we gave the project to the Linux Foundation. So today it's not known by Amadeus. It's owned entirely by the Linux Foundation. And 2 years later, Red Hat joined us. And since then, they help us, and that's really great. They join us because there is a lot of works, and any help is really grateful. So the goal of Perses, we have different goals. The first one is to provide the observability data visualization tool. We want to support and enabling the dashboard as code. We want to be GitHub friendly. I will come back later about what it means to be GitHub friendly around Perses. And finally, we want to be able to embed the Perses components in an UI. Why is that? It's well, first it was a personal need because as a Prometheus maintainer, we have different UI to maintain, which also display some visualization. And I was thinking that it would be great actually to not code something each time to display some data, but just to import a library and it's doing the job. Next slide, please. So what's the available features today? We are going through that. So the first thing is we are able to visualize the metrics today because we started with Prometheus. Why? That's because in Amadeus we are widely using Prometheus. So that was a good start. But that's not the only data source we want to support. That's just the beginning. Next slide, please. Actually, we want to support any kind of observability data to become a single pane of glass. So like I said, we started with the metrics. It's done. We still have some improvement, but as a first version, it's already great. We want to support the tracing, which is already ongoing thanks to Red Hat. As a data source, we are supporting. We will support for the moment Tempo, but probably Jaeger will follow because we are supporting OpenTelemetry, the OpenTelemetry format. And later we will support the logs. Yeah, that will be already great. And as a side note, before moving to another topic, we just delivered the authentication and authorization support. So now you are able to authenticate the Perses UI using Azure AD, GitHub, AWS, Google, whatever authentication provider you want. We are supporting that. Next slide, please. In terms of chart, we are supporting 4 different charts for the moment. So the time series, the gauge, the state chart, and the markdown panels if you want to write some text. Next slide. Regarding the GitHub friendly, my famous topic. To be able to say we are GitHub friendly, we have 3 different ways to provide the correct tools. So the first one is to provide a CLI, which is already available. The CLI will be able to validate the dashboard, whatever the format is. So in JSON or YAML, you will be able, of course, to use the CLI in the CI/CD you'd like. And the CLI is able to interact with the API. So you can push your dashboard using the CLI in the API. Then we want to be Kubernetes native, which means being able to deploy your dashboard in your namespace. And I think that's a really interesting part. And I really think it makes sense to be able to deploy your dashboard in alongside your application in the same namespace. Just because when you are making some change in your application, probably your metrics will change, so you need to change your dashboard. And if you are doing at the same time than your application, and you are deploying at the same time than your application, then you are sure that your application and your dashboard are at the same level and they are correctly compatible. And the last one is so we are providing a server, a Perses binary, which is a Perses server, but you can run it locally. And I think it's important because when you are going through the dashboard as code, at the end you will have a JSON or YAML that represents this dashboard, but you have probably no idea if the visualization will be correct. So being able to run Perses locally and to tell it to read the JSON file, that's a possibility, and you will see locally the final visualization of your dashboard before pushing it in production. Next slide, please. And the last one, so the embedded part. Today we are providing 2 important NPM package. We have other package, but that's the most important one. So dashboard and panels plugin, and with both you can embed charts and dashboard in your own UI. Chronosphere already did it. And on Red Hat, it's ongoing. You will see it later. They are embedding Perses in the OpenShift console. And finally, on Prometheus and Promlens, maybe later on Thanos, we are exploring this possibility. Like I said, it will reduce the maintainability of the UI. And I think it makes sense to share the package to the different open source project they would like to display some data. Next slide, please. And finally, but not least, we have a way to share data across different dashboards, and we have a overriding system. So actually, you are able to share two kind of data, so a data source and variable, and each of them can be overridden depending of the level. So what does it mean? That means in the dashboard, so in the dashboard file, you are able to define directly inside a data source. And if you name it with the same name than a data source at upper level, it will override the data source at upper level. That's the same thing for the variable. And that means also you are able to share variable across dashboards. So you don't need with Perses to define again and again the same variable. For example, for pods, you probably have all of you the same variable to have the list of a pod, but you can define it at project or global scope now. Next slide. And now it's time for Vanessa. Well, Vanessa will show you where Red Hat is standing about embedding Perses in the OpenShift web console. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Augustin. So let's get started. So first of all, two initiatives are currently affected by the Perses integration. On one side, Perses powered dashboards, and on the other, the upcoming tracing UI. So those affect the observe section of the OCP console. So let's start with Perses powered dashboards, followed by the tracing UI piece. The demos are recorded to be on the safe side. So I will play one after the other. So please bear with me. I will start with demo number 1.
Hello and welcome to this small update regarding our Perses dashboard implementation. So on the left side, we can see the regular dashboard provided by the console. And on the right side, we can see the Perses dashboard that we have been working in. So basically, you see some slight differences in UI, for example, this number, or coloring. But so far, we have been able to integrate the Perses dashboard into the console. Also, with some controls, for example, as the time range. Let us know if you have any feedback or questions.
Hello everyone, here's a quick update on the progress of the tracing UI. We've been working with the upstream community of Perses. We've been planning on integrating it into the Observability UI to enhance our custom dashboard capabilities. In this demo, some of the work we've been doing includes enabling tempo data sources and creating a scatterplot panel within Perses. Eventually, we'll also add a table component and a Gantt chart. In this demo, we take a look at the Perses demo application. I'll show you how we're going to add a global data source. We select the button at global data source, add a new data source name. We'll call it demo tempo data source. We'll select the source as a tempo data source, and the proxy, we are running our instance at localhost 3200, and we'll save. Great, we have successfully created our global data source. Now I'll show you how to create a scatterplot panel. In Perses, there is a UI to add and edit panels, but I haven't created the option to do that yet for the tempo queries. This is where you would find it in the dropdown. So we'll have to do that manually through editing the JSON. I've pre-prepared some JSON here that we can go over quickly. There are the panels options. When we want the scatterplot panel, query is a trace query, specifically the tempo trace query. Here's the data source that we just named, so the demo tempo data source, and a traceql query. I just had an empty query just to get some data. And layouts, so referencing the panel that we just created so we can display it. We'll copy this and we'll get rid of this generic data here. So panels and layouts, replace it and apply. And now we have our scatter plot. So this is the duration of the trace over time, and the size of each individual item corresponds to the span number. So this has a span count of 10. This little guy has a span count of 3. All right, thank you so much. Have a good day.
Awesome. Going back to the slides. So first of all, thanks to Gabriel and Jenny from the OpenShift Observability UI team for the 2 demos and contributions. In this slide, you'll find their GitHub information if you would like to reach out to them. So to recap, based on these short demos, and starting with Perses Power Dashboards, on the right side of the screen, you see dashboards that use pattern flag components with Perses charts and Perses backend. That is why Perses dashboards have a similar look and feel to the monitoring dashboards currently provided to customers, presented here on the left side of the slide. Note that Patternfly is Red Hat's open source design system. So the goal of this first step was to reach feature parity between Perses Power dashboards and the ones currently available in the Observe section of the web console. From next year, Red Hat internal teams will have the opportunity to migrate from the Grafana JSON schema powering the current Observe monitoring dashboards to the Perses schema. Moreover, a Perses community operator is planned to be released in Q1 next year. The operator will be needed to be able to create dashboards definitions as CRDs and generally to manage Perses deployment and configuration. Perses Power dashboards will first be available to internal Red Hat teams with the goal of enhancing the dashboarding experience of Red Hat customers starting from the second half of next year. That will include custom dashboards capabilities. And reflecting on the second demo we have seen, the tracing UI piece, here a screenshot of the Observability UI's team contribution to Perses in form of a scatter plot, what we have just seen now. The goal is to use this type of chart to display the duration of traces over time directly in the OCP console. The Observability UI team has recently created a data source plugin in Perses UI so that the web console and the Observability UI plugins can consume traces from the Tempo API. This allows us to make use of the Perses backend. Please note that tracing UI users will not be required to make use of a Perses operator. In other words, the distributed tracing plugin will include Perses code, but no operator required for making use of the scatter plot itself. So that's about it, I would say. And this is what the tracing UI experience will look like, centered around the scatter plot, powered by Perses and the relevant table. This tracing view will first be provided in the admin perspective of the OCP console, as you can see from this slide. All things considered, why has Perses become the open source solution of choice for OpenShift observability visualization? First of all, Perses is an upstream community directly tied to fulfilling observability needs, so giving us the possibility to contribute code and support additional data sources. Through Perses, we can also benefit from a great range of charts available via eCharts, while the control components are still built in Patternfly to keep the UI UX consistency that we have in the web console itself. With Perses, we can easily and rapidly modify and create charts, as Perses allows to define dashboards as code. Also, a plus for us was the dashboard storage and schema validation, as described also earlier by Augustin. And lastly, Perses backend API, which allows the front end to easily consume data from it. And this leads us to the last section of our session, the roadmap. So first thing first, the upstream roadmap. So over to you, Augustin.
Thank you. So yeah, let's talk about the open source roadmap. So we have three different main goals, let's say. The first one is to stabilize the data model. That means basically we want to provide a solution to be able to migrate from a panel version to another one. Then we want tracing and logging visualization support. So like Vanessa said, it's almost finished actually, thanks to Red Hat. So that's really awesome. The logs, there is no one that is working on that, and I don't have any date when we will start to work on that. So if you want to contribute and work on the logs visualization, you can reach us for sure. And the dashboard as code library, we are currently working on that. We are working on 2 SDK, one for Qlang and one for Golang. And it should be available before KubeCon. So we should have 2 SDK to code dashboard in Golang and Qlang. And I think that would be really awesome. And now I think it's time to talk about the roadmap in Red Hat.
Thank you so much, Augustin. So, as we seen before, when will OpenShift users benefit from the ongoing Perses integration? So in Q4 this year, the Observability UI team has worked on integrating Perses, both from a backend and front-end perspective, around 2 major initiatives we have seen earlier. So enhancing the current Observe Dashboards UI and providing a tracing UI. The team is working to finalize the plugins needed for this integration. Starting from Q1 next year, so 2024, internal Red Hat teams will be able to make use of a Perses community operator and migrate from the current JSON schema to the new Perses schema. In Q1 2024, we plan to release a dev preview of the tracing UI in the admin perspective with a scatter plot and a table, as we have seen before. This feature will be available to Red Hat customers too. In Q2 next year, we plan to provide a series of improvements, working on a tracing UI tech preview by including it into the Web Console's developer perspective. In addition, we plan to evolve the current dashboards UI by providing more structure to users and grouping charts and tabs by data source and topic. And lastly, starting with Q3 next year, we will work on delivering a series of features, including a tracing UI GA with advanced filtering capabilities and a Gantt chart. And we will work to enable OpenShift customers making use of custom dashboard capabilities through Perses. So that is it from my side. Just a call for action. Are you interested in learning more about Perses or contribute to it? We have a GitHub repo with documentation on how to get started. The community has also a channeling matrix that you can join. Anything else to add, Augustin, on that?
If you are a UI developer, please reach us.
Perfect. And here our contacts for any questions in regards to Perses and the OpenShift console and the observability visualization experience. So thank you so much for your time, and see you all soon with your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both for a great session. If there are any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat, or you can follow up with the contacts here for our presenters. Appreciate it and look forward to the next session coming up. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.